He's been wrestling professionally since he was in high school. And now 40 years later, that career inside the squared circle is coming to a close for Jimmy Hines, aka Bobby Fulton of the Fantastics.
Get excited when I start talking about wrestling. It's a passion of mine. I mean, I remember being right in the east end of Chillicothe playing a Scioto Valley Youth Little League on a team called Oil and Battery. One of my coaches was Bill Fetters. And he asked me one day when I was about 8 or 9 years old, he said, "Jimmy, what do you want to do when you grow up?" I said, "Bill, I'd love to become a professional wrestler, to travel the world, and do that." And later on, I seen him just a couple years ago. He said, "I used you as an example for so many years to let kids know that if you have a dream and you're willing to do whatever it takes and have the passion to do it, then you can do it." I was blessed to go further than I ever thought I was going to go. And it was on a wing and a prayer, because when I graduated in 1979 from Southeastern, I'd already been wrestling professionally for 2 years. My first match in 1977, I got paid $5. And I thought that I had hit the multi-million-dollar lottery. My mother said, "It's got to be a phase he's going through. Hopefully this will end soon." And now 40 years later, the phase has finally passed. The one good thing about it is you have to know when it's time to quit. And as I explained to you a little bit earlier today, that I want to be able to walk out, not crawl out. When I still get in the ring, and I just was wrestled in Griffin, I got in there with 2 young guys, Wildfire Tommy Rich and I, and for that moment in time, we were able to go back and be the fellas that we were in our prime. I came from Chillicothe, Ohio, grew up in the East End, graduated from Southeastern High School, and had a chance to travel the world. I met Shimon Peres when I was in Israel. He wanted to meet with my partner and I. Got a chance to wrestle some of the greatest stars. I had Sting in Ultimate Warrior's matches, and Ultimate Warrior thanked us in his Hall of Fame speech, my partner and I, for helping him when he was a young guy, and everything. So it was just a lot of mixed emotions. So I was a junior heavyweight. I wrestled as a single wrestler, and then in about 1984, Tommy Rogers and I were put together as a 90-day replacement team. We were just supposed to be a tag team for 90 days. But we clicked and gelled so well that not only did we last that 90 days, but for so many years, like I said, we ended up going to Israel, Japan 17 times, and Australia and all these different places. And not to toot our horns, but most people say that we were one of the better tag teams in the history of professional wrestling. And I think one of the reasons why that was that Tommy and I, we never looked at ourselves as single competitors after we were put together. We didn't, there's no I in the word team, you've heard that. And we were like that, everything was about the tag team. They tell me at NXT, which Triple H is over, they use our videos of our matches to try to teach the young tag team wrestlers, this is what you have to be to succeed. And they have Tommy Rogers and I in various matches.
Keeping your body, I mean, you've got to do some training sometime.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize this, but you try to be in the gym. Like normally, years ago, and even today, they might just spend a lot of time traveling, but in the morning, it's not if I make it to the gym, it's when I make it to the gym, because you have to make it to the gym, like you said, training. It's conditioning. You have to remember that in professional wrestling, you don't get into a car to race around a track. Your body is the vehicle. So you have to take care of that so that you can last. And the problem, and I tell a lot of guys, I'm 57 years old. And I told you earlier, I've hurt this arm so bad I can hardly raise it up. But for some reason, when I get in the ring, all that goes away. And you talked about the adrenaline, which every athlete or every person or performer feels that. It's that rush that gets you through, even when you don't feel like doing it. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden you go, wow, that wasn't as bad as what I thought it was, you know.
Where you ask yourself, how did I make it through?
Yeah, how did I make it through it? There's a match where we wrestled on TBS. It was called a Clash of the Champions, and I had a temperature of about 103, and we wrestled almost 30 minutes. It was Tommy and I against Eddie Gilbert and Ron Simmons, which is on the WWE Network. But I was so sick I could barely walk. But when I got out there, praise God that I was able to get out there and go for those, you know, for that long of time. Especially, you know, I talked to Bob Orton Jr. not long ago, and he does some wrestling for us from time to time because we book legends. Of course, his son is Randy. He was also, it's a 3-generation. His dad was Bob Orton Sr., and of course, Bob Orton Jr. But he said, you know, I get in the gym and I ride the bicycle for 20 minutes. He said, but when I get in the ring today, 2 minutes. He said that 20 minutes is nothing compared to 2 minutes in the ring. And it's just strange how it is, you know, as far as your body and, of course, the age factor, you know, and everything like that. But it's mandatory that you have to train. There was an old boxer came to one of our events, and he had fought with Rocky Marciano way back when, and he could barely walk. And there was only about 7 of us, Dan, in the building at this time when he came, but he just was barely moving. He said, do you mind if I get in that ring? And I said, I don't mind, sir. He was up in his 80s. And he barely made it up the steps, and I was afraid he was going to fall off of them. But when he stepped down back inside that rope, he become 20 years old again and moved with such grace and fluent movement and threw a few punches. But then when he stepped back through those ropes, he became the frail 80-year-old man again. And we all looked at each other and just thought of the magic of how just stepping through took him back to a place in time. And that's the way it's going to be for me coming up. It takes me back to a place in time to where I'm able to do the things that I would not normally be able to do, you know.
I was at
right
one of your most recent matches, you and your son Dylan.
Yes.
In the ring together.
Yes.
Very emotional moment for you.
Yes.
Try and put in perspective what those experiences were like.
For my son and I, that was the last time the Fantastics, a version of the Fantastics, would ever wrestle again. About 36 years of the Fantastics and the footprint that we left in wrestling, whether, as you said, with my most famous, most known partner, Tommy Rogers. Then my brother George Hines from Chillicothe, Jackie, stepped in for a while. Then my son Dylan at the end stepped in. So, you know, I'm thankful for videotapes and things like that. It's, you never want to say that it's the end. God bless everybody with a gift. And for some reason, he blessed Jimmy Hines with a gift of this wrestling and a love of it. And I'll never forget, some people ask me, they'll say, well, when did you begin to like it? And I said, well, we grew up on Monroe Avenue. And I remember walking in front of a television, and wrestling was on Saturday mornings then. It was the pounding of the mat. It was the announcer saying, now he's got him in a referee's hold, going into a headlock, and the roar of the crowd, and the ouch and the oohs from the wrestlers, and the hitting of the bodies. And to me, I was hooked at 6 to say, wow. And it was like an orchestra, the most beautiful music you had ever heard. That combination. I know it sounds strange, but I'm telling you, it hooked me in for life. I loved it.
Once you're done in the ring.
Yes, sir.
What's ahead for Jimmy Hines?
I got an opportunity to do a big thing in September where I'm speaking to people, and I want to make myself available to anyone. I don't charge no money. It's a passion now, as much as I had as that passion in that ring. And sometimes when my mind said, get up, and my legs said, I don't think I can, and I still pulled myself up, one rope at a time. My passion now is to give back to my community and be a service to it because it's important to me. My phase my mom talked about when I was 16 has finally came to an end. I'm still going to be involved in wrestling as far as promoting it and doing events but I'm going to do whatever it takes to leave even more of a lasting impression at the end. And I don't know how else to say it, but to serve, and that's the important thing.
He's the Legends champion, big-time championship wrestling. Bobby Fulton, a.k.a. the real Jimmy Hines.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
I'm gonna tell you all right there in Little Media, that's what it's like doing the South Central Ohio style. You gotta go the extra mile, walk the extra step, and you can accomplish anything you ever wanted to accomplish. That is why I'm Chillicothe born, Ross County bred, and when I die one day, I'll be Chillicothe and Ross County dead. But until then, I'm gonna do what I do best. That's love people and tell them that there's nothing like doing things right.